Okay, so I'm creating the video I promised everyone, and I do recommend watching this and practicing with the SofTap needle some before watching my pre-recorded eyebrow instructional videos that will be coming up soon. For those of you that don't know me, my first SofTap class was back in 1998. I had 2 models, it was 3 days, and I had to work on myself to pass. So as you can imagine, I left sort of knowing nothing, and I really want to try to hope others feel a little more comfortable moving forward. Okay, so I'll just tell you what I'm using. This way you can be prepared to participate. I want to show you just some of my favorite shading needles and how to tap with them. This is the 39, which I'll show close up again in a little bit. Then we have the 36 round I'm using, and the 7SS, which a lot of people seem to be a little scared of this needle and confused how to use it. So I look forward to demonstrating this to you. I'm also using, okay, so my favorite eyeliner needles would be the 28 prong, which is a wider gauge needle. If you look at the SofTap chart, I think this one's a little outdated because the genuine, oh no, this one has the genuine. Okay, cool. It tells you, if you look closely, which needles are fine and which ones aren't. It'll say here, like next to the 16, it says fine point. That's a great indicator to figure out which ones are wider gauge and which ones are the smaller, finer needles, which are particularly great for thin skin or older skin, aged skin I should say. So I'm using the 28, 24. 24 is my go-to needle for eyeliner. The lash line I like to use the 28, which I'll explain some more soon. Now when creating my wing and the tail, I get asked all the time what I use. Sometimes I use just the 24 and I angle it so I'm only using 1 row. The 24 is 2 rows of 12. Or depending on the thickness of their skin, if it's regular or a little on the thicker side, which it typically isn't on the eye area, it will pull out the Genuine 6 curved. The 6 fine is another one I use sometimes, or the 10 fine is probably my favorite. So numbers all mean how many needles are on there. 10 meaning 10 prongs. And I'll show you how I do that. I actually glide with it and then tap to reinforce it. Okay, so I chose some bright colors just because I thought it might show better. Some of you might be asking what I'm using here. These are Tina Davies practice pads. I think she makes them black now, which are even better. They're cardstock paper. So if you're practicing your microblading, it's great to use her needles on the paper directly. This is what the other side looks like. And I just decided to tape some of the 3M microfoam tape, which you can purchase over Amazon. And if you want to practice your strokes for microblading, it's great to double these up and double check and make sure you didn't go through to the next side. Okay, so I'm going to start out with, I will zoom in here in a minute. And if you see a cat running around, it's because I'm home. I don't have cats in the office. Alright, so I'm going to start out, and I've seen people clip these the wrong way as well, so let me show you how I like to clip them. Let me get it dark. I'll use the white background, okay. I'll zoom in some. I'm going to start off with, actually, straight line, my favorite eyeliner needles. So I'm going to take out the 28 prong and the 24 prong to begin with. Now the 28 prong only has 4 more needles, but it's quite larger. Let's see if I can get something in the background. So that's 28 prong right there. Double row. They're both double rows. There's the 24. Super thin, much finer. Okay, so the 28, if somebody has a thick lash line, larger eyes, this is great to get the color in the lash line. You get the color in a lot quicker. deposit more at once, and you don't have to be scared to work it aggressively. The skin is thicker on the lash line, but as you move up it gets thinner, then you want to change it up to 24, which makes a great crisp outline. Okay, so I'm going to put this together, clip it. Everything's one-time use. I hold them upside down this way. Can we see that? Yeah. And just push, clicks. And here's how we hold it, like a pen. So I'm going to start off with the purple color just to see how it shows up here. Let me zoom this in. Doing this by myself, as you can tell, trying to figure it out. Okay. How much do I put on my needle? That much. I'm asked all the time, how many times do I tap in one area? No more than 10. I feel like the color is deposited better if you don't overwork it and let that pigment saturate in the area. And I'll do typically anywhere from 30 to 40 taps depending on the thickness of their skin. The average is 3 passes, 10 taps each. So I take that, I'm going to lay all my needles on the microfoam. See if I get that closer. Hope nobody's getting dizzy. Okay, start on the second line. Okay, so you make sure that all the needles are on there straight. And when you tap, you're actually pushing down and forward a tiny bit. So all my needles are on here, a little bit of pigment, I'm going to push forward. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm only doing 4 taps because it doesn't need to be any more on the microphone. So you can see how nice that is with 4 taps. It's in there. So I'm going to keep going, and what's important is to make sure you start off with your needles where you left off. So I did 4 taps there. I'm going to do another 4. Push forward. 1, 2, 3, 4. Make sure everything's angled straight. Dip my needles into that pigment a little bit. 1, 2, 3, 4. Grab some of that pigment. There's still plenty there. On average, when I'm working on somebody's skin, I dip after every 30 taps. So I do 10 taps, 10 taps, 10 taps, and then I dip again. I seem to get the best results that way. I'm going to wipe this. Now that's a good line. There we go, it shows. And let me show you what a bad line is. So you'll know you need more practice if you see gaps in between, that you're not starting where you left off. So let me just pretend I'm new at this. I'm going to switch it up to the red color. Let me tap here. All my needles are on, everything's straight, no angles going on here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now let's say I dipped again, I have way too much pigment on here. In the beginning, you're probably going to want to wipe after every 10 taps to see where your needles were until you get used to it. So that's a bad line. As you can see, it's skipping. You don't want to see that. You can fill that in. You can actually take the back of these needles, just this part here, get a tiny bit of pigment. See that? And fill in little tiny spots that you may have missed. And you can do that on actual skin. Just a little tip there. So that's the 28, my favorite eyeliner lash line needle here. I'm going to show you the 24. 24 prongs. This is extra fine. I love this needle for powder brows and for eyeliner. Okay. Same thing, practice, practice, practice. Let me zoom this out just a little bit. I'm going to go back to the purple. Just make sure all your needles are on there at once. You have a good angle going. This one, you want to be lighter handed. The needles are a lot thinner. The 28 is wider gauge. So you don't have to push quite as hard to get the pigment in there. So I'll do 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I would keep doing that. Practice, practice, practice until your lines are nice and even, straight, and gap free. Now let's say I was going to do, don't do what I did. Don't pull these out. That's dangerous. I've been using these for so long. I'm comfortable with it, but it's not a good idea. So for my tails, I love the 10 prong, extra fine, very, very, very delicate needle. You can see these a little closer here if it'll zoom in for me. There we go. Super delicate fine. Very flexible. Lovely needle for the tail. Okay. So here's what I do for my eyeliner tail sometimes. I'll take it as if I'm blading, but very, very gently. I'll have a light stretch on the end of the eye, and I always do the tail last so that the skin does not get overworked. I'll take it and I'll pull, and then tap twice there to reinforce it. The skin is so thin on those edges, you really need little to no pigment. See if you can see that fine little line there. I'm going to switch to black. This smears a lot, but it just makes a nice crisp little tail. If you are going to pull and drag it for a tail, make sure that you don't push too hard. You want to underwork that skin, not overwork it. Same thing with the, I'll take out the 6 prong. These are one of the genuine needles for blading. The 16, the 6 fine, and the 6 regular are my favorite, especially to make a 3D brow because they're all a different size. This is the finest, the thinnest of them all. The 6 regular is the thickest of them all, and the 16 is in between them both, but I'm not demonstrating blading today. Just the tails of the eyeliner. So, my favorite for eyeliner, 28 prong in the lash line, 24 for the rest, and if you're going to create a little bit of a wing or a wedge or some sort of tail, however you like to call it, the 10 fine and the 6 fine are my favorites. Again, I would just dip into the pigment. Tiny, tiny, tiny bit of pigment. That's all you need. You have your stretch on the skin. You make your little puddle of pigment. You push and you drag, and then tap twice to reinforce in each area. We get our crisp little line there. Beautiful line. Okay, so there's a tip on how to practice with some of those, and next I would like to pull out my favorite shading needles. We'll start, we have the 36, the 39, and the 7SS, and I'm going to start with the, let's do the 39, that's a triple row. I find when using this one with eyeliner that it smudges out a little bit. So I use it to fill in thicker areas. Sometimes I feel like it breaks the skin too much. It really depends on the person. I love it for a powder eyebrow, somebody who has really thin skin. I'll demonstrate the powder eyebrow, how I do that. Okay, here's one of Tina's cardstock designs here. I put some of the microfoam on it. Here's my little surgical marker. 1, 2, 1, 1. See that? That's how I help design my eyebrow for practicing. Watch how I connect those. just gonna give her, she's gonna get a red eyebrow, I guess. Move this closer. Here's the front. Then we're going up to the arch here, moving over to the tail, and then curve that bottom area. Okay, not so lovely with the red, but you get the idea. I would make it a little wider actually for practicing. That's kind of thin. I'm going to take the long ones again here. Get my 39 ready. Okay, let me just say first, if I'm creating a powder eyebrow, what I use to outline the very bottom of the eyebrow, all along here, except for the front, I go very sparingly on the front, is the 24. I do 10 taps and then another really light 10 taps. And I work my way up from there, that way I don't lose my shape. I'll do that on each eyebrow. And then in the front, I'll typically etch with the 16 prong to keep it nice and light, gives it more of that ombre effect. And fill it in with the 39 or the 36. So I'll use the 39 for thinner skin, 36 if they're medium thick skin because you deposit a lot more color into the area quicker. So if this were my eyebrow right now, I would do 8 taps or 6 to 8 here, not start at the beginning and start here. 10, 10, 10, 10, 10. And then I do again 6 to 8 taps and 10, 10, 10. And then I'm going to start working, make my strokes here with the 16 and fill this all in with the 36 or 39. I hope that helps a little bit. Okay. We'll make a purple eyebrow. So if I were to outline the bottom of the eyebrow, let me zoom that in. Other way. Okay. I love my 24. So I would do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And so on. And then I take my 39 needles, 1 extra row. The 24 makes crisp lines. This one doesn't so much. I tap and fill it in with this one. Okay, my battery's dying. I have to make a second session.